Well, as much as President Trump has shaken and stirred domestic politics, it's on the world stage where Trump's disruptive style may well have its greatest long-term effect. This president is challenging all the presumptions of the embedded foreign policy establishment and charting a very different course away from the globalist agenda of virtually all recent American presidents and toward an America First agenda. And here to analyze the state of the American Republic from an international perspective is LibertyNation.com managing editor and international writer Mark Angelides, joining us from the UK. And Mark, welcome. It's been a breathtaking pace of change in American foreign policy over these last 18 months, from Korea to NATO to China to trade and beyond. So when historians look back over this transformational time in America's relationship with the rest of the world, what do you think they'll believe are the most significant changes?
Hey, Tim. From a Brit perspective, I'd have to say that the U.S. is re-engaging with the world. I mean, under the last administration, there was very much a Pacific focus that sought to sway away from Europe, especially a lot of work around the Middle East. Now, President Trump, probably due to his ties here, has swung that focus back, and this is never a bad thing. But perhaps the most significant change is that America is proud of herself again. It's no longer beyond the pale to be patriotic. I mean, we see this in the America First ideal, and it's a slogan that's being adopted by those who love liberty across the world. So I think when people look back on it, they'll see it as this is when it changed from being ashamed of nationalism of your country to being proud of your country and being proud of being an independent nation again.
Well, now, virtually the entire foreign policy establishment in Washington, Republican and Democratic alike, opposed the election of Donald Trump. Rare was the man from the foreign policy establishment who had anything good to say about him as a candidate. Now, can that establishment bide its time until Trump leaves the White House and regain its former power? Or do you think Trump's arrival signals a permanent change in the direction of U.S. foreign policy?
It's likely that they'll be working even now to either diminish or remove any and all of President Trump's achievements. They'll obviously be hoping he'll lose in 2020, and obviously that he'll receive a bloody nose in the 2018 midterms. But I don't think that really matters, because the genie is out of the bottle. As was it Ben Franklin who said, it's a republic if you can keep it?
Indeed it was.
And I mean, that applies here. It's, he's created the opportunity for you to embrace the republic. And it's up to people like you and of course, our listeners to hang on to all the good stuff and demand that those who are elected, that they put liberty first and they put America first.
Okay, so Mark, I wonder if, as we attempt to define the Trump foreign policy, it's been described as Jacksonian in the tradition of President Andrew Jackson. Of course, that was 2 centuries ago. But I'm wondering if the simplest way to boil down the Trump foreign policy is that we won't start fights, but we will end them.
I would say that it is truly Jacksonian, yes, absolutely. And it certainly does seem to be the way Trump's going. I mean, he's pushing for greater trade with all nations, but he's also pushing for a more balanced trade, which is hugely important. I think so many people don't realize that having a trade imbalance of the size that the U.S. does is hurting Americans. And, they suggest that but a trade war will hurt more. But no, they don't understand that already, like $500 million here, $500 million there. The very people who are paying are the American people. They're the ones who are getting screwed over on this. So to say that Trump is quite happy to engage in a fight if it appears, I would say absolutely he is, without a doubt. But in terms of will he go off and start a war, which is obviously not very Jacksonian, I really doubt that. He's never given any indication that he's going to be hawkish. He's certainly very much more interested in business, not war.
We continue with Mark Angelides, LibertyNation.com managing editor, joining us from the UK. And Mark, it seems there are a couple of basic views of America under Donald Trump around the world. There are those who think his presidency is the best thing to happen to the U.S. in an age, and others who believe it's the worst thing. Break down for us which countries or areas are cheering this president and which are booing.
Actually, it's a pretty simple divide. It's between those that want to be part of a superstate, for example, like the EU, and those that want to be sovereign nations. And we're seeing it writ large in almost all the recent European elections. Parties that run on liberty tickets are sweeping up the votes, like Italy, Hungary, Austria, Britain, of course, with the Brexit vote. I mean, even there's a lot of Asian nations that are pretty excited. I mean, China loves doing business with Trump, despite the talk of the trade war. North Korea has to be happy, and consequently, of course, because of that, Japan and South Korea. The ones who aren't loving this, like Canada, Mexico, Germany, now these are nations that are fully on board with a globalist, open border, supranational game plan. Trump's just busting that wide open, and they hate it. That's where the divide lies.
Yeah, no question that he is not very popular in Europe, but he's like a conquering hero in Asia and in much of the Arab world. So there is this clear dichotomy of love and hate for Trump internationally. Mark, it seems just the way there is here in the United States. You either love him or you hate him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the globalist division, I think of it as. There are those that believe in nation states, and there are those that don't. And you can pretty much draw the line straight down the center as would they support Trump, whether they like him or not, but would they support Trump or would they oppose Trump? And the difference is globalist or sovereign.
Yeah, it's not that difficult a divide to figure out now, is it? Thank you, Mark.
You're very welcome, Tim.
Mark Angelides, managing editor for LibertyNation.com, joining us from the UK.